Taking a wild side to the Rhone area of France, we look at goat cheese. Goat cheese is well known for the Rhone area, and Ile de France does a wonderful goat cheese available both in plain and also a fine herb. Goat cheese is traditionally already a little herbaceous. What I mean by that is that because of the goats eating all of the herbs, they create a nice herby flavor to the cheese. So you get that naturally. So when you look at pairing of these cheeses, you kind of think about the earthiness that you want to have in there. Goat cheese is a little tangy, not over the top, but it does have a nice tanginess to it, part of the herbaceous flavors. So pairing that, we need something that will kind of stay within that same area of earthiness, and that is the McMurray Pinot Noir. Pinot Noir is traditionally very earthy in itself. It has some nice mushroomy flavors, but also this is very fruit forward. So it has a nice fruit flavor, a little bit of intense, maybe a little bit of blackberry in there that just seeps in, gives you a really wonderful balance of flavors. So when you mix that with the tanginess, what happens is it tones that down. Really mellows out the tanginess of the goat cheese, but it also intensifies a little bit of the herb. So in the plain, you get a little bit of herbiness, but in the fine herb, it really stands out. It doesn't overpower the wine, it adds into like a mushroom herbiness that gives a very pleasant flavor. Another alternative to that would be a fun sparkling or champagne, and Piper Heidsieck makes a wonderful fruit-forward champagne, predominantly Pinot Noir. So again, we look at the Pinot Noir, the earthiness to it, the little bit of mushroom, very, very hint of that with the Chardonnay citrusy flavor. So it's a nice cleansing, but the earthiness of this also lends itself well to the herbiness of the cheese. So we take a sip of this, the effervescence helps surround it and actually warms it up a lot. Gives it a real nice tangy flavor that takes a little bit of the herbiness away. So adding a fine herb to it intensifies that, but again, doesn't overpower one or the other. Another fine choice would be a Gamay. Louis Jadot does a wonderful Beaujolais Village. It takes a little bit of that fruitiness, a little bit of the acidity there, and really snaps into the herbs, mellows it out just a little bit, but keeps that nice herb style. If you look for something that's got a little bit more power to it, Rodney Strong does a wonderful Cabernet Sauvignon, and this Cabernet Sauvignon does a great job of blending with its really intense fruits, black cherry, blackberry flavors that don't overpower this, that just settle it down into a nice creaminess. This actually becomes much creamier with this wine, and the herbiness of the fine herb really adds a nice accent to it. Kind of brings it all home together in a nice pairing. But remember that it's important that whether you start with this way, you always have to start off liking these, and that makes for a much more pleasant, intense flavor profiles for both. So hopefully you can put these two together and have a real nice pairing experience. Also, we can look at beer. Sierra Nevada does a wonderful beer. So pairing this up with the Ile de France goat cheese, you get the herbiness, the herbaceous flavor of that. The herbs play really well with the Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, because the Pale Ale has that hoppiness. That hoppiness adds to the herb flavor, so you get a real nice balance between the two. This doesn't overpower it, but it helps cleanse it. A little bit of carbonation there really mellows out the tartness that you get, and when you add in the fine herb, you really get that nice bridge that almost gives it a little bit of a biscuit flavor. It really settles it down, really takes a lot of the creaminess to a new level. If you're looking for something a little bit more on the edge, go with the Blue Moon. This is a wheat beer, very similar to Hefeweizen, and it adds that sweetness to it. The sweetness of the wheat playing with the herbiness really mellows out the cheese, gives it a nice softer flavor. Add the herb in there and you get the wheat, you get the herb, you get a little bit of the tanginess. Doesn't mellow it out as much, but I think if you're a real goat fan, I think you really want to keep some of that, and this allows to keep that intensity of the goat flavor without taking over and allowing the beer to neutralize that. So this is a fun little beer and cheese tasting, taking a little bit of the Ile de France goat cheese from the Rhone Valley.